the man accidentally saw his father testing his strength. In an instant, his father shattered the water jar in the yard. A look of admiration immediately appeared on the man's face. So after his father left, he picked up a branch and imitated his father's movements. He swung it toward the water jar with all his might, but the water jar didn't move at all. The man dropped the stick in disappointment. He felt like a useless person with no talent. But just as he left the spot, all the water jars behind him suddenly shattered. And this scene was seen by a world martial arts champion watching from afar. So he quickly rushed over to stop the man. He said the man was a martial arts genius, seen only once in 100 years. He wanted to take him in as his student, but the man didn't believe such a claim. He only thought of himself as a failure. He didn't want to waste the old man's time. Seeing this, the old man quickly took out half of a jade pendant connected to his own. He said directly that if the man ever wished to leave with him, he should just break it. Once he sensed it, he would return to take him away. With that, the man returned home sadly, holding the jade pendant. But he was shocked to find that his parents' adopted son had entered the family's forbidden area and stolen the family's martial arts manual. To prevent the adopted son from being punished, the man quickly stepped forward to stop him, but he was framed by the adopted son instead. Before the man's shocked eyes, the adopted son burned the manual. When the man tried to stop him, he didn't try to take it back. When he saw his father approaching, the adopted son immediately accused him of stealing the manual. And the reason he did this was to take the place of the man as the real son, to become the next heir of the family. As expected, after hearing this, the father immediately believed the adopted son. No matter how the man explained, he was punished by his father. Even the man's fiancée stood on the adopted son's side. She urged him to admit his mistake. His father even sent him to the family's punishment chamber. There, he suffered pain and torment every day. He wasn't released until 8 years later. Seeing his fiancée welcoming him upon his release, the man couldn't help but show fear. Just as she tried to show concern, the butler suddenly appeared. He said the adopted son, upon hearing she came to greet the man, was once again possessed by an evil spirit. He was already searching for her everywhere. The man, still confused, only learned after returning home that 8 years ago, the adopted son had pretended to be mentally shaken by him, telling everyone he was possessed by an evil spirit, that he could no longer practice martial arts, and that only the man's fiancée could calm his emotions. And his fiancée had even agreed to marry the adopted son. She was no longer his fiancée. The heartbroken man returned to his old room. He looked at the half-jade pendant, still kept in a box. Without hesitation, he crushed it in his hand. 7 days later, his master would come to take him away. Meanwhile, seeing the red glow from the jade pendant, the old man knew his 8 years of waiting had finally paid off. He was happy to finally have such a gifted student. He then prepared to leave with his granddaughter, hoping to arrive as soon as possible. 4 days later was the man's birthday, but his family was with the adopted son, listening to everyone's blessings to him. Watching the sky lanterns float up, the man couldn't help but show envy. But he didn't want to disturb them. He just wanted to leave quietly. But some of them noticed him. Seeing the adopted son even ask him for a gift, the man found it ridiculous. Hearing his parents scolding, he felt even more like a clown without a family. But what shocked him even more was that the adopted son was to be engaged to his former fiancée in 3 days. And that day was exactly when he planned to leave. Seeing the woman anxiously trying to explain, the man didn't want to hear the same excuses again. He simply said he didn't care. Then he turned to leave. But the woman grabbed his arm. She accused him of being childish. She said the adopted son once saved her life. To repay that kindness, she had no choice but to marry him. Unknowingly, the one who had actually donated his blood to save her was not the adopted son, but the man standing before her, the one she had abandoned. But now the man no longer cared. He only felt that his sacrifices were not worth it. So he shook off her hand and left without any hesitation. But the adopted son wasn't willing to let him go. When no one else was around, he went to find the man. He not only used martial arts to injure him, but also revealed that he was never possessed by any evil spirit. He told him the whole truth. At that moment, the man felt nothing anymore. For these so-called family members, he only felt pity for himself. 3 days later, the man quickly packed his things, left that unfamiliar home, and left a letter behind, along with the treasure used during the blood transfusion. Those things were never truly his. Meanwhile, everyone preparing for the engagement ceremony noticed the man wasn't there. They wanted to call for him immediately, but no one knew where he actually lived. After asking the butler, they learned that he had been living in the storage room behind the kitchen. When his sister arrived there, she was shocked to find there wasn't even a bed inside. Even in winter, the man slept on a floor covered with straw. But what shocked her even more were the items he left behind. When she returned to the banquet with them, everyone finally realized that the woman's savior was not the adopted son, but the man who had already left. For 8 years, they not only never cared about their real son, but had personally sent him to be tortured. They had caused him to be covered in scars. When they read his final letter, they realized the man was already gone. They hurriedly drove out to chase him, but when they reached the dock, that familiar figure had already vanished.